The Daily Mail reports that the NHS is so short of paramedics, it's dispatching policemen to answer 999 cardiac arrest calls. That's great news, isn't it? Don't worry if you have a heart attack at the theatre. They'll stop the play and a guy will step forward on the stage and say, is there a deputy chief superintendent in the house? There are two things going on here. One is the implosion of the NHS, which is fast degenerating into the world's most lavishly funded Zoom call. But the other, which is going largely unreported in Britain's groupthink media, is the explosion in excess deaths, currently running at about 1,000 a week in England and Wales. Take a look at this tweet here. And before you Ofcom complainants get the vapours, this is from the official Twitter feed of the Office for National Statistics. That's to say, it bears the imprimatur of Her Britannic Majesty's government, which I think means you're allowed to quote it even on over-regulated Brit telly. Look at that. Deaths in private homes running at 30% higher than average. So we have a chicken and egg situation. Are your neighbours dying at home because they can't get into a hospital? Or is there a shortage of ambulances because so many people are dying at home? Tony Hinton is a consultant surgeon or possibly a police inspector. It's very hard to tell the difference these days, but we're always glad to see him, and he's banned on Twitter, unlike the Office for National Statistics. What do you make of this this situation with the excess deaths here, Tony?
I think the excess deaths is almost certainly a combination of three things. It's lack of proper health care over the last 2.5 years. And in fact, there was another interesting story in, I think, the Times today, looking at the misdiagnosis or the missed cancer diagnoses of people that have been done over Zoom call consultations. All of my patients I've always seen in person. I can't do my specialty over video. I'm not clever enough to do that. I have to see the patient in real life. And I think that's what all doctors should be doing. But coming back to those excess deaths, I think it's a combination of lack of medical care and patients now being in a worse condition. It's some of those patients will have been affected by COVID, the people that caught it badly, particularly the elderly or people with other conditions. And no doubt there will be some that are to do with patients that have had vaccine adverse reactions. It's impossible to know how much of each those excess deaths come from. But they're not actually people dying now of COVID. These are non-COVID excess deaths. And they're to do, I think, a lot to do with the lockdown.
Well, we had the point made on this show last week that, in fact, after a pandemic, which was certainly true, with the Spanish flu a century ago, where people die prematurely because of something bad that's going around, you normally have the opposite then in the years afterwards, because people who would have died when they were 83 instead keeled over a couple of years ahead of schedule. So what I don't understand is why we have this and why no one is interested in getting to the bottom of it.
It's very odd that nobody in the medical or political hierarchy seems interested to see why it is. It's a very well-known thing that if you get a bad, for instance, flu pandemic, that will take out lots of the weaker members of the population. And the following year, then you get far fewer. You don't get the excess deaths.
No.
You get fewer deaths than you would expect because some of those weaker people were taken out by the previous pandemic. So it is odd that this is going on now. And in fact, if we look back to COVID deaths as well, COVID deaths in the summer months of 2020, so July, August, September, when we had no vaccines, were running round about 100 in the UK, 100 a month.
Right.
The following year, when there were vaccines, the same months, July, August, September, they were 4 times as high.
Yeah.
Which to me raised alarm bells. But no one's ever looked into it.
Yeah,
There's a lot of heads being buried in sand.